Hello and welcome back to Journey with Rebecca. My name is Rebecca and today I'm in the kitchen and I'm going to be doing something that I've never done before and I'm actually really excited about. So I'm going to be dehydrating celery and then ultimately I'm going to be making a celery salt from it. So I have in front of me this huge bag of celery scraps right here. You're probably wondering where I got all these celery scraps from. So I've been working part-time at my brother's pizza shop and I chop celery a lot for wings and I don't want to just throw the scraps away. I've actually brought home another batch before. Let me show you what I've done with it so far. Okay, here is the first batch of celery that I brought home. I have it sitting outside in just a casserole dish and it's in shallow water, and what I'm doing is actually regrowing the celery. So you can see here all of the new growth that is coming up, and eventually when it gets big enough I will be putting this in soil and actually replanting it. So I have a bunch here. Some are growing better than others. Some are taking a little bit longer. This has been about 9 days since I brought it home and put it in water. Looking really good so far. Almost all of them have some new growth. So I will be regrowing these, planting them in my garden and seeing what comes up. Never done this before, so I don't know how well it's going to work, but so far so good. I also have some lettuce that I'm regrowing as well. This one I didn't bring home from the pizza shop. This was just some romaine stalks that I had from salads that we made, and I put them in water as well and they have started regrowing and have started growing roots. So I was able to get them planted yesterday. So this is probably about 9 days of growth and it's going really well so far. So because I haven't just gone to the store and bought myself a couple of big stalks of celery, I do have some extra prep work that I'm going to have to do to sort through all of this. So what I did is I just saved all of the hearts of celery and brought them all home. They're very dirty. These need to get washed before I do anything with them. And then I also brought home all of the leafy greens, which I'm also going to be dehydrating all of these greens as well and adding them to make my celery salt. This would also be really good if you wanted to dehydrate the celery and the leaves and save it for like soups that you're going to make later in the winter, because it's not really soup season right now. If I have enough, I may do that. I'm literally really only going to be working with these parts, so it is going to be a lot of extra work. So the first thing I need to do is just get these all taken apart and soaking and brushed up in some water so there's no dirt on them, and then we can go from there. So I've gotten my sink all cleaned and sanitized, and then I just pulled out the outer pieces of the celery heart and then I chopped off the very end, and I'm just going to add the layers in and get them all soaked. I don't know that anybody in the history of anywhere has ever used this much of the celery stalk, but it feels good to not have any of it go to waste. Now I'm not gonna mess with this little part right here. I will throw this in my compost pile though. And actually I imagine, which I might try, this is like the very center heart of the celery. I'm guessing if I added this just to water that this would regrow itself. So a little experiment I'll try. This is what is left from what I actually chopped off of the very center part here. So this part definitely will be going into the compost pile. It's very thick and like kind of woody almost. I don't know if that's the right word for it or not. So I will chop this up a little bit just before I throw it into my compost, just so it will break down a little bit easier and faster. Taking apart each of these celery hearts that I brought home was definitely tedious and definitely something you wouldn't have to do had you just gone to the store and bought yourself some stalks of celery, but I think it's totally worth it. So I'm okay with the extra work. All right, so I have completely washed all of the hearts of celery that I put work into to actually get them out of here. Now, like I said, I am making a lot of extra work for myself just because I'm not just going to the store and buying myself some hearts of celery and then cutting them up and using them like that. I'm actually preventing a whole lot of waste by using the very ends of this, which otherwise would have just been thrown into the garbage. Now, all of this does not look great, and no, I will not be using all of it. But the parts that I don't use, I'm actually going to throw in the freezer because I can make a vegetable stock with those at some other later date in life, not right now. Really, I'm not wasting any of this. So what I am gonna do just while this drains a little bit is just cut up the very ends of the celery that is left. Just throw it in my compost bin, my vintage compost bin here that this bin was my grandparents, and now I use it for my compost stuff. So I obviously don't want to run out to my compost bin every time that I have kitchen scraps. So I throw them in there and try not to forget about them and let them get too stinky before I actually run them out to my compost. So every probably day or so, now that it's summertime, I'm running out to my compost with my kitchen scraps, which feels great because then I know that I'm not wasting anything. And actually just, I went out a couple of days ago and I stirred up my compost and got it all turned over, and it looks really good. And I was really impressed with myself, and I was like, I know this is just dirt, but I made this. This is gold, dirt gold. All right, so I have my scraps in here, got a couple other things in there that I will make sure I get out to my compost later. And now what I have to do is deal with the rest of what's in this bag. Now a lot of it is just this little stuff because I used most of the other lettuce when I was chopping it at the pizza shop. My light just went out. So I'm just gonna go through, find any pieces that are, there's little pieces in here. So I'm gonna separate all of these out versus the leaves, and then I'm gonna go through the whole process again. I'm gonna wash everything, get it all rinsed off real good. Then I'm going to be ready to, ultimately what I'm gonna do is chop these up into slices, and then I'm gonna blanch the leaves, and I'm gonna blanch the celery, and then I'm gonna get it in the dehydrator. So I have just a bit more work to do before I do any of that. Okay, I have gone through the rest of everything that I brought home from the shop. These are all the leaves that I'm left with. There are some on here, but like I said, I'm gonna be using these scraps for a vegetable stock. So I'm literally just gonna close this bag up, put it in the freezer. I'm gonna put the lid on my compost bin, and then I just have this other tiny little pile of celery right here. I was gonna say lettuce, but that's not right. I have celery here, and I'm gonna clean these up, and I'm just going to get everything cleaned, get a clean slate again, and then I can finally start chopping up the celery that I do have left so that I can get them ready for blanching. Okay, I've got everything rinsed, washed. The celery that I'm using is sitting here. Sorry, my laptop's in the way. So I'm just gonna chop this up real quick. Any pieces that are bad, I don't wanna use the very end of this. That's gonna go right into my compost bin. This truly is a no waste system I've got going on right here. So I'm just going to cut these into strips. I don't want to leave them as big as they are because it will take them longer to dehydrate. Also, the fact that I'm blanching them will preserve some of the color and will help the dehydration process a little faster because they will already be warmed through. So that will just help with that a little bit. So I'm just gonna go through now and cut off all the ends that I don't want to dehydrate. Get the rest of these sliced up. Again, yes, this is a lot of effort. And by the time I'm done dehydrating these, I'm sure that I will be a little bit sad maybe about how little I actually have, because every time I dehydrate something, I'm amazed by the fact of just how small the volume of everything gets. I just dehydrated some violets for something that I'm making for another video, and I'm always shocked at just how little volume seems to be left once you actually dehydrate things. So in that sense, this even does seem like a lot more work that I'm putting into this, but I actually really enjoy doing stuff like this. It's very rewarding to know that you know, the stuff isn't just going unused. It's not going into a landfill just to rot somewhere. I'm putting this to good use, and in the end, I'm gonna end up with some awesome celery salt, which is really exciting. If you're a dork like me, then you get excited about stuff like that. So I'm just gonna continue on, and when I'm done getting all this chopped up, we'll be ready to blanch. Okay guys, this is what I ended up with. It probably doesn't even equal to like whole celery hearts, and a lot of work and effort went into that, but I don't care because like I said, I'm just happy it's not going to waste. I have a pot of boiling water here. I'm going to throw this in, and once it comes back up to a boil, I will be leaving it for 3 minutes and then taking it out, draining it real quick, and then putting it into some ice cold water. Now, unfortunately, I don't have one of those pots that has like the strainer right in it. I don't even actually know what it's called. Is it called a blanching pot? I have no idea. But you know, you have your pot of water, and then you have the insert that comes out so you can just strain things. I don't have one of those, so I'm just doing it like this, and I'm making a little bit of a mess, but it's okay. We're gonna get it all in there, and then once it comes back up to a boil, we will take it out and shock it in some cold water. And also, I have all of my celery leaves ready to go. I'm going to do the exact same thing with those that I'm doing with this. Oh, you know what? I just thought of something. Sometimes I just don't know about me. I was just gonna go take all of that water and dump it into the strainer, but then I would have to reboil a whole other pot of water. It would have wasted water, I would have wasted time, because I don't have one of those pans. Mom, are you listening? I need one of those pans, those pots, I mean. But I do have this. This was my grandma's. So instead of me wasting all of that water, I am just going to bring my pot over, strain this right into my, I have a pan of cold water behind me to shock the celery. So, sometimes my brain takes a while to catch up. So I'm going to do that instead of wasting all that water, because I'm going to turn right back around and I'm going to put in all of my I keep wanting to say lettuce. My celery leaves right back into the pot of water, so I don't want to waste it. Silly. All right, again, the theme of the day here is being resourceful, not being wasteful. So, of course, I'm not just going to dump out all of this cold water that I have, because I'm going to use it again in just a second when my water comes back up to a boil and then I blanch all of my celery leaves. So I'm just painstakingly taking all of this celery out of here and putting it on a towel to drain a little bit before I get it into the dehydrator. I don't mind taking the extra steps to not waste things, because it just makes sense. Makes sense to me. A little extra time, a little extra effort, bigger payoff. Okay, I have all of my celery greens that are nicely blanched. Color is beautiful. Now, I'm not going to reuse this water again, so in theory, I could just dump this on down the drain, but I'm not going to do that. I am going to let it cool down, and I'm going to water my plants with it, because In the spirit of not being wasteful, I just think that's a good idea. Plus, my plants will get all of the nutrients left over from the celery water. It's a win-win for everybody. Win-win-win all around. Okay, I have all of my beautiful celery here that has just been drying on this towel. I'm finally ready for the dehydration process. So I'm just going to, actually, it's still a little damp. I'm going to take this towel here and just kind of dry it off a little bit. We don't want it totally wet going into the dehydrator, or it's just going to make it work harder and take longer. So just get it a little bit more dried off, and then I'm just going to turn this the right way first of all, and then just pile it up on my dehydrating sheets. I'm not going to do a total single layer because I don't have enough for that, I don't think. Well, maybe I do. Who knows? It is what it is. I have to save room for the leaves that are soaking behind me as well. So I'm just going to get all of these layered on here, and then I will drain my leaves and then get those on as well. Yeah, I guess I can do this in 2 trays. All right, my greens are all strained out and just trying to, I like squeezed them out a little bit, so I'm just trying to unbunch them a little, and then just going to do the same thing. Just going to layer these on. I think they're all just going to go on one tray, and I'm guessing by the time these are all dehydrated, there's going to be like a tablespoon of greens, which is crazy, but it'll be worth the effort. So I am just going to plug the dehydrator in. I think it's going to go on 135 degrees. I have never done this before. Like I said, I imagine this is going to take a very long time, probably well over 10 hours, I'm assuming. Obviously the leaves are not going to take as long as actual pieces of celery. So I'm going to put those on top, and I can take them off if I need to, but so now we wait. So it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon right now, so I will see you all tomorrow when this is all dehydrated. Hey guys, welcome back. It's tomorrow, and my celery is completely dehydrated. It did shrink down a ton like was to be expected. It went from those full trays yesterday to just these tiny little, they almost actually, it kind of looks like pasta. Just this tiny little amount that is really not a lot. The leaves did not shrink down as much as I thought they would, but they're not all crunched together yet. So what I'm going to do is just get them ready to go into my little KitchenAid mixer. Listen, you don't need anything fancy to do this. I've had this KitchenAid mixer since my kids were babies. I made their baby food in it. They're teenagers now. And this dehydrator, nothing fancy. It's not the newest thing on the market. Just work with what you have. So I did go to my local Apple Mill today, which they happen to sell a ton of organic spices. And I picked up some celery seed that I'm actually going to be adding into the celery salt that I'm making. To be honest, I don't have a recipe. I've never done this before. I am going to grind up the celery first just to see about how much I have, and then I'll go from there to decide how much of the celery salt I'm going to add, and then I'll probably honestly just crush up all of the leaves and put them in there too. So I don't know, we're just gonna put it all together and see how it goes. Actually isn't too bad, the amount that I ended up with. So I have this full jar here of just my celery, and then I have this jar here of just my celery leaves. I'm going to use them all, and then what I'm doing is just taking some fine crystal sea salt that I'll be adding to it along with a little bit of the celery seed, just mixing it all together in the processor and seeing what I come up with. I like this because I can control the amount of salt that's going into my celery salt. And if you just look at a jar of celery salt from the grocery store, all it is celery seed and sea salt, but you have no control over the amount of salt that's actually going into it. So I like this because I can add a little, taste it, and if I don't like it, I can add more. So it's nice to have that control. Okay, I hate the fact that my island does not have electricity in it. So I've moved over to the counter behind me, and now I'm just going to pulse this up, see how much I'm left with, and then from there I'll just kind of decide how much celery seed I'm going to add and how much of the sea salt that I'm going to add. Okay, I added 2 tablespoons of sea salt and just 1 tablespoon of celery salt to it. I'm going to give it a taste test and see what I think. It's really good. It tastes just like celery. Definitely the perfect amount of salt. I would not add any more salt to it, so I'm just going to take it off here. There are some bigger pieces in here. It's not like a complete powder, but I'm okay with that. I don't think it's a big deal. Okay, I ended up with all of this celery salt, which I'm super excited about. But don't forget, I also have all of this celery that I threw into my freezer that I'm going to use for making stock. I have all of this celery water that I just left on the stove overnight because I had too much going on to deal with it. I'm actually going to water some of the seeds that I just planted outside with this. I feel like if you're going to reuse water that you've cooked any sort of vegetables in, it does have like a sort of a smell to it. It smells like the vegetables, obviously, that you cooked in it. So I prefer to use any kind of water that I'm recycling outside, just so that my houseplants aren't getting any sort of funky kind of smell in it. Plus, we have all the stuff from my compost bin that is going out to compost. So all around, this is a win. Super pumped about it. So I know that me bringing home some celery from the pizza shop and using every bit of it that I can, it doesn't even put a dent in the waste that goes on in this world. But I feel like for me in my heart, it makes a little bit of a difference. And if more people did stuff like this, we would have less waste. So yes, I worked very hard for this celery salt, but it's gonna be so good in like, you know, it's picnic season coming up, so I'm thinking of like adding this to a potato salad. I have a coleslaw that actually calls for celery salt, so this would be really good in that as well. Just garnish things with it. Just so many possibilities of things that you can actually do with this. I'm super proud of this. It's not a lot, and a lot of effort went into it, but I made it myself, and nothing beats that. This makes me happy. I'm going to put a lid on it and throw it into my pantry so I can use it for later. If you found value in this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I can't wait to see what I come up with next. Working at the pizza shop sure has opened up a whole new avenue of things that I can bring home that would just been scraps, and now I'm going to use them. So I'm all for it. So I hope you guys are here for it too, and I'll see you guys soon.